Today, you are going to get a front row seat to the memorable Springbok coaching career of Heyneke Meyer. He's been on the show before. Heyneke, welcome back to Front Row Rugby.
Thank you. It's a big honor speaking to you. Always looking forward.
Great to have you here again. Before we begin our conversation, let's take a look at today's trivia question. Who did the Springboks play in their first test match of the year in 2000? Now, if you know the answer to the question, you can put it in the comment section down below, and we'll also find out if Heyneke knows the answer, but we'll do that at the end of our conversation. Heyneke, let's go back to 2007. We've won the Rugby World Cup. People are talking about who the next Springbok coach is going to be. Your name popped up, of course, and you were overlooked for Peter de Villiers. I'd just like to hear from you. How close were you at that stage to actually becoming the Bok coach?
I've promised myself I'll only say positive things, especially after I finish with the Springboks. I was on the shortlist, and I really felt that was my time. Nothing against Peter. I thought he did a great job, and he's a great friend, and he's a great coach. But I was also on the shortlist in 2003, and I withdrew because I always felt that South African team has to win Super Rugby. If you speak to a lot of the players, Mona Steyn, a lot of the guys, if you even look at the stats, a lot of the players feel it's almost more difficult to win Super Rugby as a South African team than winning the World Cup. And I always felt that it's possible for the South African team to win Super Rugby, and we were far down the line of that Bulls team. And so I withdrew 2003 because I thought my time will be maybe 2007. And the thing that people don't realize is, as a national coach, you don't get a chance with the national team. It's changing now, and it's for the better. I think we learn a lot of hard lessons, but you don't have time. So I always felt that team will be at their best, in 2007. And a lot of the guys, 12 of the starting lineup, I've coached at the Bulls, so you have that continuity with leadership and the way you want to play as well. So obviously I was disappointed, but again, that's rugby, and nothing is assured.
Okay, so let's fast forward to 2012 when you did become the Springbok coach. Talk to us about how you actually become the coach, because it's not like you go by the Report or the Sunday Times on a Sunday morning and flip a few pages and there you see the Bok coach job being advertised.
Yeah, it's quite a long process and comprehensive process, especially in 2007. We did psychological testing. We had to present in front of the board, ask a lot of questions. You have to put out your plan. The way forward, how is it going to work? So it's quite a big process that you go through to be selected. And even till this day, it's an honor. Representing your country is something you dream about as a young coach. So for me, it was unbelievable. Just so humbled experience to be the Springbok coach, and I've always dreamed of it as a little boy. Everything I studied, everything I did, psychology, sports psychology, physical ed, teaching was to become a coach. So it was a great honor to be entrusted. But it's also tough because, you carry the hopes and the dreams of a whole nation. So it's a huge responsibility as well. And being South Africa, being rugby crazy, it's a big responsibility.
Hey, if you're enjoying this video, why not consider becoming a patron? It's my dream, guys, to do this full time, and with a small financial contribution, you can help me realize that dream. The link and the QR code is appearing on your screen right now, and I'll also put it down in the description area for you to go and click on at a later stage if you would like to do so. And by becoming a patron, I promise there will be great benefits for members. Now let's get back to the interview. Tell us how you decided on John de Villiers as your captain.
Yeah, again, like I said, I had some great memories with coaching the Bulls. People didn't realize that, but I've coached the Stormers as well. They always said I was just pro Bulls, but I had a soft spot for the Stormers, and you want to be neutral as well. So Victor and Fourie, that used to be my captain and vice captain, weren't available. Victor's retired and Fourie moved to Japan, and obviously you want to captain in South Africa. Both of them would have been great captains as well, and they were later on in the World Cup. But I wanted a guy that's quite neutral, that's a great leader for everyone, all provinces involved. And also wanted the guy that combined to the way I want to play in my vision. And I think the other important thing for me at that stage was that I wanted the guy that's number one in his position. And John was playing excellent rugby. He's done brilliantly for the Stormers as a captain. Everybody liked him. He's got the right attitude, same values that I believed in. So it was an easy choice to make him captain. I think the thing that I probably didn't do enough, we didn't have enough captains around him. There was a lot of great guys, but most of them were playing overseas, and I was only allowed to pick 7 overseas players at that stage. And you couldn't work with those guys. And And luckily, we had 4 injuries in the World Cup with all 4 captains. And probably should have had more guys around John, but he was a great captain. And, I don't regret the decision. Unfortunately, he was injured in that last year. And it wasn't easy going into the World Cup. Not sure if your captain's going to be there, but he's been a great captain until this day. That was the right decision. He's respected by everyone, and he played some great rugby.
He was a wonderful player indeed. So, Heyneke, I've had more than 80 former Springboks on this show, and I asked them all the same question about how they were feeling before they made their debut for the Springboks. And usually the answer is excited, nervous, and maybe a little bit of a combination of the two emotions. How were you feeling as the coach before your first test match?
Yeah, before the first test, you're quite nervous. First of all, when you, like I said, when you become the Springbok coach, it's exciting and something you've worked for, but you also realize the huge responsibility, and you also realize the big responsibility on your family life. I always knew it's going to be tough. I was assistant with Nick Mallet and, saw all the negative publicity when we didn't win games. And I discussed that with my family, but I didn't know that back then that social media was going to be so big. So it was tough on my family. But by saying that, you're so humbled by the experience. And I was very, very nervous against England because, like I said to you as well, people don't realize that it's much better now, but I've coached from an under-7 team, and this is the truth. I've coached at all levels, club rugby. I've coached at every single level I've coached, even now in America. But that's probably the least prepared team I've ever put in on the field, that game before England, because you don't see the players for 6 months. You go and visit them and just have a talk. You do a lot of research on the players. You study them, you look at videos, you plan very, very well because you've got 6 months to plan. But on the negative side, it's Super Rugby, so you don't have any time with the team. So I got the team 2 weeks before the first test match, so we had a week to prepare. And then the next week you play England, and they came from Stuart Lancaster, also a great friend. They had the Six Nations well prepared. So you don't have a clue what to expect. You have like 2 scrummaging sessions, 2 line-out sessions. There's so many calls. There's no continuity because there's a new coach, new captain. And I thought that's what we're doing right now, and that's what New Zealand's done well. They just have continuity. When I took over as coach, a guy like Steve Hansen had I think 100 test matches as assistant, and the same captain in Richie McCall. So they just had so much continuity. So you go into the biggest game of your life at that stage, and you only had like 4 training sessions. You don't know what to expect. So you're very, very nervous because you're underprepared. But luckily, you've got great players around you, and we had an amazing test match, and a lot of youngsters I've bleeded into that game and gave them their start. But just so thankful to win, because obviously on the start on a winning note. But again, it's looking back and thinking about it, it's amazing. Not even the schoolboy team goes into a game without preparation. You have like 2 weeks before a test, and new lineouts and new lineout calls. We learn how sophisticated it is and how much preparation must go in. But yeah, it was just great to start with a win, and especially against England.
I was actually at the Ellis Park Test match. That was quite an exciting occasion as well. And as you know, we won the series, and that was a great way to start. And then the Tri-Nations had become the Rugby Championship. Argentina had been included, and we were playing against them home and away. We actually did quite well in that Tri-Nations, not too badly. What was your assessment of the team at the end of that competition?
We had 3 test matches against England. I was very fortunate to win that series. And then you have like 4 to 5 championship games. And Argentina was a big thing. They just came in, well deserved, and there was a huge hype. I remember when we played against them, there were so many people up in the trees looking at our training. There was no closed sessions, but it was great to have them involved. Again, as a coach, it takes time, and I was happy where we were. Probably could have done better, but where we came from, you just want to survive your first year. So championship is always tough because because of the travel, and you play home and away, and it's quality sides. It's really, you play quality sides.
And then we went on our first end-of-year tour. That was something that you actually became a bit of a specialist in. As it turns out, we were unbeaten against Ireland, Scotland and England. It was the first time in 6 years that we actually went unbeaten on the end-of-year tour. How pleasing was that for you?
Yeah, that was great. I felt the end-of-year tour is always tough because it's the end of our season, and then England are usually quite fresh. Same when they come in July when we face them. Again, you don't see the team for 4 or 5 months, and then a lot of injuries. But I was quite happy because sometimes I get remembered for my passion and the wrong reasons. But we were actually very successful, at the end of year tours. I think we won that one. And I say the team. And then the year after that as well, I think there was the only coach or only team that's gone unbeaten for 2 end-of-year tours. So that was a great way to end of the first year, and I really felt we were on the right track. A lot of youngsters came through that hasn't played in England, hasn't played in those wet conditions. So I was very pleased with the way but every game there is totally different. Every game there is, it's a 50-50 game. It's wet conditions. So I was very pleased with the end of year 2. I thought it was an end to a great season.
And then going into 2013, there was a magnificent win over the Wallabies in Brisbane. What a wonderful occasion that was. Bonus point victory. How special was that?
Yeah, I know, that's unbelievable. That was an unbelievable performance by the team. Still to this day, probably the best performance at that field. People don't understand how difficult it is to win at Suncorp Stadium. That's the same stadium where South Africa took 49-0. You don't win at Suncorp. It's almost like it's impossible to win there. They've got most of the best victories there. The All Blacks struggled to win at Suncorp. Even with Russia in them, they struggled. So I look at the 100-year history at one stage, and I think they lost probably 1 or 2 games at Suncorp. So they're a very, very difficult team to beat at Suncorp Stadium. We know it was a big game for us to grow as a team as well. We actually had a great 2013. And the whole week, they wanted to attack us, and we were quite confident. I was quite confident in that game. I think the greatest thing was we scored 4 tries. I'd score them, and it was the first time the Springboks has won at Suncorp. And I remember, to my demise, I went ballistic because usually what I do, I believe it's not about the coach. The coach shouldn't be, I don't like to be in the media. I believe you're number 31. It's all about the players. And usually what I do is, on the captain's run, you usually, you prep yourself, you sit in the box and there's cameras around you. And then usually what I do the next day, I change seats because they put the camera right in your face. And I don't like that because I go I really get involved and I really get passion behind the team. And so I changed seats with Sean Roux, and I know I wasn't on TV and anything. So I went ballistic because it was a great performance and the team really played well. But what I didn't realize was there was cameras in the ceiling. And I didn't see that, so I really went crazy in the box. And then obviously we won. And then the next day it was all over the front pages of the newspapers. And my wife phoned and said, "Did you see you all over the newspapers?" So a little bit embarrassed, but it was an unbelievable performance by the team and one of the best performances I've been involved in. Till this day, it's probably one of the best wins against Australia on Suncorp Stadium.
It was a great day, Heyneke. Actually, as it turns out, my wife and I got engaged that very same day. I proposed to her at halftime, so it was a very good occasion from our point of view.
That's good. It is some positives.
Absolutely. Something else that you'll find, I think you'll like this. I had the late Ian McIntosh on this show, and he commented on the passion that he had as a coach, that he showed during matches, and he likened it to the same way that you show passion during matches, and he said that he believes that coaches that are like that live longer. So I think that's something that you will like.
Yeah, Mac was a legend. That guy is an absolute legend. I coached against him as a young coach, and we had some big scuffles and a lot of arguments. But then he became my head of my selectors for South Africa, and we became very, very close. And exactly like you said, I said to Mac, I want to sit still there. I don't want the media to be on me. A lot of the times I would have walked out, and then you forget there's cameras, all around the stadium. And I said to him, just try and behave, but I can't. And he says, "Don't worry, Heyneke. Our guys live longer. The other guys that keep it in, that's the guys that get a heart attack." So Mac did live long. He was a great mentor for me later on, and he's a great human being. So he's probably right. And he's a legend of the game, and meant a lot to me, because people don't realize it is quite alone at the top. The back stops with you. You carry the hopes of the whole nation, and it's tough in your family life. But Mac's been a brilliant mentor, and what a legend of the game.
Oh, that's great to hear. Heyneke, a few weeks before that wonderful win against Australia, we annihilated Argentina 73-13. It was at the Soccer City Stadium. Now, I think it's fair to say that the Springboks are probably not really 60 points better than the Pumas. Can you explain to us what actually happens on a day like that where everything just seems to click?
Yeah, I think the difficulty, like I said, and I just want to point out the difficulties, but there's no continuity in the national team. You get them for incoming tour for 3 games, and after the 3rd game, as you get momentum, you don't see them again. Then they're off back to the Currie Cup or those days Super Rugby. And then you start the championship. If you win the first game, you get some sort of continuity. If you don't win it, you're under pressure and you just have to find solutions. And then you don't see them for 6 months and it's end of year tour. So you never have continuity. So 2013 was a great year for us. I think we were number 2 team in the world, just behind New Zealand. We just lost to them home and away. And we had some sort of continuity. I think we were 80% plus winning record, which is one of the best. So we were really well prepared. Everything worked for us. You always need some luck, but I had a very good feeling going to that game. Training-wise, we were great, not a lot of injuries, and we played superb rugby. Sometimes get criticized for not playing good rugby, but I mean, that's still a record up till now. Every year, New Zealand, Australia, South Africa, and the Pumas meet. And they're a quality side, they're really a quality side on the day, and they've shown they can beat any team on the day, and they've done it. They even beat New Zealand in New Zealand. That day, we just played some great rugby at high speed and high intensity, and everything just worked for us. And sometimes you need a little bit of luck, but I just really saw that game we played well. And that whole season, we had a brilliant season in 2013.
And it finished off on a high as well, beating Wales, Scotland and France on the end of year tour. So that made it 2 in a row for you, unbeaten in the November test matches. It was the first time since 1996 and 97 that we were able to do that. At that stage, how positive were you feeling with the World Cup less than 2 years away?
No, we're on a great wicket. Like I said, we just lost by New Zealand, I think by 3 points. Bismarck was sent off. Great game in Ellis Park as well against them. So we were very, very close, I felt. And again, that end of year tour was very important for us because I think we haven't beaten France for I think 13 or 15 years. And we beat them at Paris, which is quite difficult. Even this year, you could see in the World Cup, we beat them by 1 point. So it's not easy beating France in France. So we were unbeaten in 2 end of year tours, has never happened before. So I was really positive. We had a really great year, like I said, 80% won record, and thought it was definitely on the right track. But again, the third year is always the most important for a national coach. That most will tell you, it's interference start, political addresses comes up. So it's not easy. But I was very happy with 2013. I thought it was a superb year and one of the best in Springbok history.
Okay, let's talk about that third year. Like you said a little bit earlier, one of the criticisms of your Springbok team was that they were not an innovative team. They were not an enterprising team. They played maybe cautious rugby. But I think if you look at the highlights reels of some of the tries that we scored during your era, there's some beautiful stuff there. There really is. A lot of innovation, good play, interplay. And something that always sticks out for me was when we were playing against the Wallabies at Newlands, we needed to win by a bonus point to give ourselves a chance at winning the Rugby Championship that year. And the boys scored 3 tries in the last 10 minutes. I think it's fair to say a boring rugby team doesn't do things like that. What was your response to that criticism?
Yeah, I'm happy you asked the question. Again, I don't sell myself in the media. I think it's all about the players. But I fought my whole life with that question, probably where the Bulls came from with Nas and the olden days, and people perceive you as that. The strange thing is, and again, this is not arrogance, forgive me. It's more about the team and putting it straight for the team out there. But the strange thing is, I've always heard that comment. But if you go to the stats, the biggest Currie Cup away record still the Bulls. It's in the 30s. The biggest Super Rugby till this day, Super Rugby win was 92-3 against Eddie Jones's Reds. I think we scored 13 tries, which is unbelievable. I can write 2 books about that season. And again, all credit to the players and assistant coaches, it's not me. The biggest win in a championship history is that 76-10, I think, in PE. And that they play New Zealand up till this day, which is also a great side, and Australia. And then Nigel Owens, which I respect as one of the best refs in the world, is widely respected. He officiated 2 World Cup finals. He said that 2030 game between the All Blacks and South Africa, we had to score 4 tries to win it. They scored, unfortunately, 5. Till this day, he said that was the best game he's ever been involved, and he's been quoted to say that's the best game ever. You think in a rugby, on a rugby field. Now I'm coaching in America. Again, my assistant is doing a good job, and Vic is doing the attack. We scored the most tries till this day in the competition, 130 out of 14. So I've always had that question mark around my teams. But again, at the end of the day, it's all about winning. It's not how you play. But again, I was very proud. like you said, we outplayed Australia, always outplayed them in South Africa, and they're always a quality side. And then the All Black game was an unbelievable game. Till this day, I think it's one of the best games. The only pity for me is we've the last 4 games we've faced the All Blacks. That's the best All Black team, and people reckon the best team that ever played the game. That was an unbelievable team. But the last 4 games against them, we lost by 4. Then we lost by 3 in New Zealand when Bismarck was sent off. It could have gone either way. Then we beat them by 2, and then we lost by 2 in the World Cup, which is the World Cup semi, but it probably was the World Cup final according to them. And so the only sad thing is in that era, I never felt our team was fit enough because, like I said, you don't have time with them and you have to rely on structures. But we played some great rugby, and all credit to the players. I'm proud of the way we played. And just another thing is that every year there's a try of the year picked by World Rugby. And in the 4 years we coached the Springboks, South Africa won it twice, New Zealand once, and the Sevens once. So I always get that criticism for the way the Springboks played, but we played some great rugby. We had unbelievable backs. Brian Abana was always there scoring the most tries. We had a great backline and brilliant forwards. So, it's usually perception, but again, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. If you win 3 games by 1 point, everybody is happy. You just have to win the World Cup. And unfortunately, I was involved in 2 and lost 2 by 2 points.
Indeed the case. I think, like you said, their perception, that's everything, isn't it? Because as far as the British and the French and the Australians and New Zealanders are concerned, we play, and when I say we, I mean the Springboks, play boring rugby. It's all about the forwards, and it doesn't matter what we do or what we do in the future. That's just always going to be the perception according to them. It's just one of those things, I suppose. But let me ask you this, Heyneke. You mentioned the 2-point win over the All Blacks at Ellis Park. That was your first win against them. How satisfying was that?
Yeah, that was great, because we were so close so many times. And like I said to you, I never felt we were fit enough. That was an amazing team, super fit. They usually last 15 to 20 minutes, they just put you away. And those days, there was less guys from the bench. It wasn't the bomb squad. So you have to be very, very fit. And they were unbelievably experienced. A lot of guys, over 100 test matches, very experienced leadership. It wasn't easy to beat them. So at Ellis Park, when Patrick Lambie kicked that last kick, I will... till the day I die, I will be thankful for that, because I know we were so close. And if you look in those games, it could have gone either way. Even in 2015, we probably will talk later about was a drop goal was a difference. So that was great to beat them, especially at Ellis Park, and I was just happy for the players.
So we spoke earlier about the passion that you showed inside the coach's box. I have to ask you, when Pat Lambie was lining up that kick, were you thinking to yourself, please, son, please put this one over?
No, I always say I pick players that... I always say to my players, I'm probably not the best coach, but I'm a very good judge of character. And I always say I pick players that you take normal charcoal or coal, and when you put it under pressure for years and years and years, you get diamonds. And I always say to my players that I pick the right guys with under pressure, they will shine like diamonds. And I don't want to take any credit away, but most of those guys that went on to win 2 World Cups, most of them, I think 10 of the starting lineup, I picked as 21-year-olds. So to come back to the question is, I always pick guys that under pressure that they will come through. And Patrick Lambie was one of those guys. He was unfortunate not probably to play more test matches. He played 50, but he was an unbelievable human being, and wasn't always the first choice kicker, but he had nerves of steel. It was quite a far kick, although it was on the high field. It was quite a far kick, and under huge pressure with 60,000 people just praying that over. I still remember there was a photo of Jannie and Bismarck praying, so we needed that as a country. But Patrick is a cool, calm, and collective guy. Reminds me the same as, Andre Pollard, Mornay Steyn, those guys that just, when the pressure's on, they're so cool, calm, collective. So I was just so happy for the team. It's not about myself, happy for South Africa and happy for the team. But Patrick was an unbelievable kick.
So Heyneke, you mentioned a little bit earlier your 3rd year in coaching, and I can actually remember at the time you mentioned that everybody says the 3rd year is the most difficult year for a Springbok coach. Can you explain to us why that is the case?
Yeah, again, I promised myself when I leave the Springboks, I'm going to leave it in a better place, and I don't want to write the book about the past and what happened behind the scenes. But I just think, so I don't want to do it now, but it's just, in the first year, we always say it's the honeymoon year. You get whatever you want. You just, everybody helps you. Second year, then you start doing well. We've got an 80% win record. And then your 3rd year is the most difficult year, because then suddenly it's budget cuts. It's a lot of political interference from all. You don't coach it in your 3rd year mostly, and most coaches will tell you that. It's just, you just always in trouble. You're always like, there's always something around the Springboks because obviously it sells media. And, it's such a big thing in South Africa, the Springboks. So your third year is very, very difficult. Then your fourth year, you're going to the World Cup. They don't sack you before the World Cup. It's almost too late, although, we were under pressure not even to go to the World Cup. There were sanctions against us. There was court cases that we're not going to go. Our preparation wasn't good enough. So the third year just becomes more and more, difficult. A lot of outside interference. But again, that shouldn't be a excuse. You're still in charge, and it's still a big honor. It's an unbelievable honor to coach your country. And, there's no regrets. I gave it my all, and we came close. And at the end, you just want to make a difference. For me, that is very important. Obviously, you want to win World Cups and you want to win, trophies, but just such an honor to be involved.
You mentioned the court case and the pressure, and I think we lost 4 in a row at one stage before the World Cup in 2015. If I may ask you, just on a personal level, how are you dealing with all of that stuff?
It's crazy. Looking back, I get very tense, even now coaching in America. You get so invested in the process, and you're so confident, and you're the leader. The pack always follow the pace of the leader. So if you start to lose the plot, then it's not good for the players. But looking back, you can't believe you actually stand under that pressure. Every Springbok coach, I think that's why a guy like Jacques Naber also, you can't, to be there for 4 years is tough. To be there for 8 years, another 4 years, it's really, really tough. And the thing that is probably the most dooming and things that you don't realize once you're in it is very, very tough on family life. You can just see now with coaches, struggling with family life. It's very tough on family life, and you can take it if you think your family is okay. But when you look back, you don't, the family keeps away from you. I've got a great wife and kids, but they take a lot of pressure. They take a lot of pressure in school. They take a lot of pressure, social media. So it's not easy, but again, you love your country, you like what you do, and you think you can make a difference. So it's only when you finish and looking back, you think, how did I survive? But such an honor, it's such an honor to be involved.
And then off we go to the World Cup in 2015. I know you know what I'm going to ask you now. I'll try and phrase it in as short a manner as I can. Japan, what happened that day?
Yeah, again, I can make a lot of excuses. I don't want the players to make excuses, and the coach is responsible, and you let your country down. But just to go back, I always knew we were in trouble with that World Cup. This is not excuses. It's, again, I take full responsibility. I should have been stronger, and I should have fought more for my team. I also believe that we learned a lot of lessons going forward now. We're doing things now, and Rashi was also part of our coaching team. He was director of rugby. He was my assistant for 2 years, and, he's just taken it further, and all credit to them. But first of all, in the World Cup year, you don't have any incoming tours. So a big setback for us was, and I'm going to go into depth, but a big setback for us was we won 2 end-of-year tours, which hasn't been done before. And then that last game against Wales, I didn't want to play that game because it was outside the window. And I just felt it's one game too far. We're going to get injuries. That was the previous year. And then John got injured that game, which I was still, to this day, I felt that was our whole campaign gone. Because then it was a battle to get him back. We lost against Wales, which we shouldn't, 6-3, I think, or 9-6. I don't live in the past. But we had a lot of guys not available. Then come 2015. And you can look, there's a trend of all coaches winning the World Cup. You have a lot of time with the team. There's a lot of breaks in between. Unfortunately, 2015, so I saw the guys end of that tour when my captain got injured. And then 6 months, I didn't see the players. We didn't have the luxury of camps. It was super rugby then. There was 18 games. We tried to get guys to rest. But again, obviously every union wants to win as well. So that didn't happen. Then what happened was there was no incoming tour. There was usually you have an incoming tour. There was no warm-up games and no camps. So when I tested the players when they came back, in 2007, the Bulls won the Super Rugby, and I had standards, which I called Blue Bull standards, that I have to do or have to achieve before they can play. I took that same standards, which is like 10 years on, and tested the players, and I said they must only do 80% because I know they come from a long Super Rugby campaign, and not one player could make 100% of those standards, and only 3 players, and Victor was one of the oldest, Mornay, and the hookers could make 80% of that standards. So when I took over the team, I knew we were in big trouble. We were not fit, a lot of injuries in the team, a lot of games. Like I said, SA Rugby didn't control They had a control over a few contracts, but not most of the contracts. So they couldn't raise guys. We tried with the unions to raise guys. So I knew we were in trouble. We overtrained those games just to try and get some, some fitness going. And then obviously, no excuses. You know, First of all, I think people underestimate Japan. That team went on and Jamie Joseph and beat Joe Smith's Ireland, which is one of the favorites, and they also beat Cricket Towns in Scotland. When Italy beat us, everybody thought, oh well, that's not as bad because they played Six Nations, but Italy was 14th on the lock. Japan has been 10 in the top 10. Surely we shouldn't have lost against them. We scored 4 tries against 3, but I think we learned as a country hard lessons. It was my mistake, and I let my country down. But I think from there on, we started to have warm-up games, more of the team, more together, better preparation with the team. So again, I take full responsibility, but they're quality side, Japan, the under-20s are winning now. They're just going to get better. They've got unbelievable work ethic. And I think the biggest thing is you learn from that. I learned from that, but I knew beforehand. So they were 6 months in camp. Eddie was clever, took them out of Super Rugby. The Sunwolves just trained. We had like 2-3 weeks. You go into the World Cup unprepared, you're definitely not going to win. But by saying that, take full responsibility. But by saying that, I'm very, very proud of the way we turned it around. We kept on working hard. With 64-0 on America, which was a record, scored the most tries coming back, played really, really good rugby, and almost won the World Cup. And I said to the players, I truly believe you can lose a game and still win the World Cup, and they've proved it afterwards. And it was so close. It was 2 points. It could have gone either way. One great drop goal by Carter. And just the difference was, I think we learned from that as a nation. Carter played like 3-4 games in that Super Rugby. They just put him in cotton wool, and he was a difference. He was an unbelievable experienced guy, and when they needed him, he was superb on the day, the player of that final or semi-final. So I always knew if we beat New Zealand, we will probably beat Australia. We've always beaten them, and we had a great team, but very young and inexperienced. But that was the final, and unfortunately, New Zealand, they deserve to win. They've been the best team. I think they lost 3 games in that 4 years. They've won it before, and they probably where we are now. That's where that New Zealand team was. But we learn hard lessons, and you have to be well prepared. You can't go in a World Cup and you think you're going to prepare there.
As you mentioned, we did so well to turn things around, beating Scotland, Samoa, and the United States in the rest of the group stage. But something else that was going on, you mentioned it earlier, John de Villiers went down injured. Then we lost Victor Matfield to an injury. And then Fourie du Preez obviously took over as the captain for the Wales match. With all those injuries, and I know that you've just explained the reasons why it's come about, just how difficult is it to deal with that stuff?
Yeah, I was very motivated. I really believe that we can win the World Cup. Like I said, I knew every game will get fitter, every game will get better. And I know the World Cup is going to be between us and New Zealand. And the sad thing is, and I don't make a joke, it still hurts till this day. If we didn't end first in our pool, we wouldn't have played New Zealand in the semis. We would probably get them in the final. And you need lucks in World Cups as well. And I don't take anything away from previous teams that won it. But South Africa lost the next World Cup with 10 points against New Zealand and didn't face them again. And this World Cup, we beat them, with 1 point. You need some luck. And I always knew that if we win first in our pool, and we didn't do it on purpose, surely we didn't. But I always believed it's going to be between us and New Zealand. And unfortunately, we got him in the semis, and they won the final by a huge margin. But it wasn't that difficult. We had great leadership, great leaders, and Schalk Burger was also captain 1 game. So I had 4 captains in 6 games. But again, we were strong. Management were really, really well. We came a long way, very focused, and we always believe we can win it. And I think that team, 10 of the guys went on to win the next 2 World Cups, where they lost a game and just went on and win it. So they've learned a lot from that. But it was, it obviously was difficult on me. But again, I was so motivated to do it for our country, and you have to lead by example, and you have to get the players. And the players bought in. I think Fourie du Preez said those 6 games after that was probably the best games in his life, being involved in Springbok. So all those leaders, Fourie, Victor, Jean, Schalk, all those guys played a huge role. And we went back to what we're good at. We didn't play the right game plan against Japan. We scored 4 tries to 3, but we should have been more physical and drive more, and just, you have to break them down. And all credit to Japan. But the guys stick to the guns, and we were so close, but also so far. 1 drop goal was the difference.
Speaking of Fourie du Preez, scored a beautiful try in that quarterfinal win against Wales. Dwayne Vermeulen picking it up from the base of the scrum. I'm going to put it in a different way to the way I phrased it earlier. Not bad for a team that supposedly plays boring rugby.
Yeah, it was a great try. People don't realize how difficult it is to play against Wales. You know, Warren Gatland is a very, very good coach. He plays more or less the same as South Africa. And every game that we played against them was a 50-50 game because they played exactly the same as us. I always knew when we go against England, we will beat them in finals. And if you look at most of the World Cup, we played England and beat them in finals. And we were fortunate we never lost against England. But the Wales is a difficult team because they played tactically more or less the same than us. And even if you look at 2019 in that quarters, we just beat them. They're very difficult to play against. We scored a great try there, and Fourie and Dwayne must get a credit there. They came to me early in the week and with Johan van Graan, the attack coach, and we saw the scrum of his following, and we sat together and they came up with the idea and I backed it. I think it's going to work. And as I sat there, I knew it's now or never. Because the margins are so small in World Cups, and Dwayne got a great pass away, and Fourie he's an unbelievable player. One of the best that's ever played the game. Very astute player, and I was such a experienced to coach him. I coached him since he was 18, 19 at the Bulls, but unbelievable rugby mind. And yeah, we played some great rugby, like I said, after the first game. Although we played good rugby in that first game as well, they really played some good rugby.
I've had Ricardo Lopesha on the show. He was your assistant coach during that period. And something interesting that he told me was that the plan on the day of the semi-final was to be ahead of the All Blacks before it starts raining. And obviously that was not the case, as you well know, and you've mentioned the Dan Carter drop goal. Just how disappointing was it to lose that day?
Yeah, it was very disappointing. Like I said, we believe we can win that game. Really believe we can beat them. We were ahead, and as I went into halftime, I just saw it start raining, and then I knew it's going to be quite tough. We had a very, very good game plan. We want to put them under pressure with box kicks, and I remember they were also quite clever. Brian was brilliant against Milner Skadde, and then it started raining, and then they changed Ben Smith to the wing to deal with those box kicks. And the reason we bring up the rain is a lot of those guys come from the Crusaders. A lot of those guys on the South Island where it's always wet, and they just at this stage play the wet conditions better. So I knew we had a chance. The fact that it was so close that hurts, because again, they were the better team for 4 years. So I don't take anything away from them, but there were so many ifs and buts and so many 50-50s. If I look at this year, the 3 1.1s, the 3 games that he won by 1 point, the 50-50 sometimes has to go for you. I remember Pollard was kicking to win the game, and then Victor took somebody against, around the neck, and that was changed. That was the game. We had them all 5 meters out where we went to win the game, and then they sacked us, got another penalty, and then Victor didn't even catch the ball. And I looked back at the video, and I saw they were so clever, those New Zealand players. Like Kieran Reaches got his hands in between Victor. The referee didn't see that, and we didn't get the ball. So there's so many, 50-50, and there's so many permutations, but it was very disappointing. But again, they were the better team, and I was just happy they went on to win it. I think the difference was, and that's why I'm so proud of what the team has achieved going on. I think the difference was in those 50-50 decisions, you need experience. And just to tell you how good that New Zealand team was, why they were so good at that stage, we had Andre Pollard, I think he was just in 21. I think he was on 5 or 7 test matches. He was our 10. They had Carter on 100, and I think 140. Our 12 was Damien Delenda, that's still playing now. He was his first year. I think he was 5 or 6 test matches. And they had Maunano on 140. He's still playing here against us. He's playing against us on Saturday. We had Jesse Crew. I just picked him out of the under-20s. He was 21 years old. He was I think it was his 5th test match because John was injured and he was out. And they had Conrad Smith at 100 in the 40s. They had Ben Smith on 100. They had Richie McCall as a loose forward on 100 and something, the most experienced loose forward ever. They had Kieran Reid as a captain on 100 and something. But it was an amazing team. And a lot of our guys, 10 of the guys that won the next World Cup was in their 2021s and with less than 10, 20 caps. So I think that teams move on. And that's why they're so unbelievable, very, very difficult to beat them, because suddenly our guys got 100 test matches. They're in their early 30s and they can still win another World Cup. And I'm so proud of those guys going on to win it. So yeah, those 50-50s, you need the experience, and we're just not there.
So Heyneke, that meant that we would play Argentina in the 3rd place playoff. Not just at the Rugby World Cup, there are many other sports that have major tournaments where there's a third place playoff, and a lot of people say that the match doesn't mean anything. Maybe they don't take it seriously. Maybe they play the youngsters or a so-called B team in that match. What was your approach to that fixture?
It's not a great record, but I've been in those games twice. It's unbelievable difficult. In 2000 and the 1999 World Cup as assistant, we've just lost against Australia, also with a drop goal. Larkham has never done a drop goal before and after since that day, and we just lost again by 2 points. And then you gut it. You feel you let your country down. You just you absolutely gut it, and they're celebrating going to the final, and you just absolutely get it. And then we had to play New Zealand in that playoff. So to motivate yourself to get back, it's a daunting task, and they do it it's also part of the rankings for the next World Cup. So we've just lost against New Zealand, absolutely get it, and then you have to get yourself up for Argentina, which is a proud nation, and we knew they had some really good games. So to get the team back up, to get yourself back up, to go and win a medal for your country is not easy. And that was a great game. I think that's the most tackles I've ever been involved with the team. I think we made more than 200 tackles. Argentina definitely played great rugby, but it's a very difficult game. That obviously you win a medal, but you don't want to be arrogant. It's a great occasion, but only a World Cup win is good enough for South Africa, and I pride myself in that as well. We came so close. I gave everything. It's a pity. I had another 4 years. Unfortunately, I didn't go on, and I always believed, I was on record in this media where I said this team is going to go on and be invincible, and they are. And all credit to Rassie and all the young players that went further, and Jock, they did a great job. But just to come back, that is a very difficult game to play.
Okay, Heyneke, is there a particularly funny moment that you can share with us from your time as the Springbok coach?
I'm not good at funny stories, but as we speak, I thought about one thing when I spoke about Argentina. So this is to my detriment, but I'll tell it quickly. I'm so focused. So there is fun, guys like Willem Albert. There's always crazy guys around. But I remember when I spoke to you about that Argentinian game. So I said to the players, listen, we also represent our country, and we have to be ambassadors. And we actually stayed in the ambassador hotel, I will never forget, in Argentina. So this is our first game back. Argentina's first game back in the championship. It was always New Zealand, Australia, and us. So I said to the guys, there's going to be a lot of extra media, a lot of people. They're so happy to be in the championship. So we have to be really good ambassadors, and just sign and give signatures to the guys and autographs, and just be really good ambassadors for our country. So I remember, I tell the story probably too long, but I remember when the bus comes back to the hotel, there's like huge amount of people. I mean, we have a closed session. We train on some sort of field, and the people are with cameras in the trees, no privacy. It's like 1,000 people after each game, and they were just rugby crazy. So I'm very big on time and timekeeping, and the players know 7 minutes before a meeting they have to sit. That's my time, and so we just came back from that training session, which has been hectic, and there's like 1,000 people outside the hotel, and you struggle to get to the people and signing autographs. And then as I walked into the foyer, I saw on my watch, I have like 3-4 minutes left before the meeting started. I can't be late, but I also don't want to run away, because I said to the players, you have to sign autographs, and they were very good with that. And I saw I'm almost the last guy, and I know the player's going to wait for me. And so I walk into the foyer, and I said to people, listen, sorry, I have to go. And as I walk in, there was a couple standing in the foyer, which I saw, taking pictures all over. And the guy came to me, and he said to me in broken Spanish, oh, you don't want to take picture? You want to take picture? And I just say, no, Harry, I assume they want to take a picture of me and his wife. So I just walk straight to his wife, put my hands around her, and wait for the guy to take a picture. And then he says, no. We don't want a picture of you. You take picture of us. And I was so embarrassed and humbled, because I just assumed all of the rugby people there, they wanted a picture of me. And then they actually wanted me. I met them again later on in the airport, and I realized they're from Chile, and they were just staying in the hotel, and they just wanted a picture of the two of them. And I just went there and stood with the wife and thought they wanted to take a picture of me and then with him. So I just laughed, after that. But again, being with the Springboks, they're just human beings. People sometimes don't understand, but they're also down, and when they're struggling, and they're just human beings, and they can't always be at their best. They make mistakes, but they're just funny guys. Most of those guys, that's what I miss the most. All the funny moments, being to a bus, really big characters around you. Guys like Ibn, unbelievable guys, and yeah, it's just an honor to coach them.
That's a great story. Peter Rousseau actually told me a very similar story of something that happened to him very much in that same sort of bracket when he was playing for the Boks. I think it was during the 98 Tri-Nations, actually. So, Heyneke, I'm not sure if you can answer this question, but I'm going to ask you anyway, and then you can tell me if it's appropriate or not. Is there a current player that you admire?
Listen, I've never been involved. The report asked me to pick the best 15 I've ever coached. And I've been asked in shows and stuff. I'm like I said, I'm a student of the game. I believe in the ethics of the game. I believe in the old values of the game. So I've never ever picked a team like that, and I just feel it's unfair because I think of that 10 of the best of the top 20, I've coached every single one of them, and I think in the top 7, I've coached 7 of those guys since they were 19, 20. So I just feel it's unfair. A guy like Brian Abana, one of the best I've ever coached, he scores a tries, but the prop. He's the guy in the scrum that nobody sees, the Frans Malherbes of the world, whoever. So I've never picked that. So every single player that I've coached was special. Watching these guys are unbelievable, great players. But I'm proud. I'm proud of guys like Ibn being a captain. I remember he as a 20-year-old guy sitting there. Peter Steph, the two now, just being nominated captain. I remember when I picked him. Everybody says, pick him out of position. How can I pick him as a flank? He's a lock. I got a lot of feet. I was called names and stuff. Now, a year after, he was the best player in the world at 7, and now he's a captain at 7. Nobody came back and said, "Listen, Heyneke, you were actually right. You never get that." But every single player I coach has embraced my life, and such a great memory. So to select a few will be unfair. I was just fortunate enough to coach. Since 98, I was assistant coach. So most of the guys that's ever played a game since 98 up till recently I've coached. And they're all special in their own right, and they're all, superstars in their own right. But at the end of the day, they're just human beings that want to make their country proud. So just proud. And they say that, a coach, 1 year can have a bigger influence on a human being than some people in a lifetime. And that's why I coach. I've never coached just to win trophies. That makes, obviously, that's great. And it's great, especially for your country. But if you can make a difference, that's more important for me. And, to see what type of human beings they become after rugby, because rugby, although it's a religion, it's just a game. And unfortunately, a lot of these guys after rugby struggle in their personal life. So if I could make any change, and even now I mentor a lot of youngsters, that's a huge honor.
And what are you up to these days?
I'm still in coaching, believe it or not. I'm in America again, trying to make a difference here. I'm very proud of our team. We took over a team that hasn't won any games. We've been bottom of the lock for 5 years. And, I've got a great coaching staff of South Africans. We've turned this team around. First year we made a playoff. Second team we made the playoffs. And this year we top of the lock, won 13 out of 14. Still a way to go. We scored the most tries. Vic, my son, is involved in the attack. So maybe he's a better attack coach than I was. But yeah, just proud of the assistant coaches being South African and making a difference throughout the world. And I really enjoy coaching. Still get stressed, still get very, very excited for my team plays. And we're playing in 2-3 days and looking forward to that game. And you won't believe me, that's a great thing about rugby. Maum Nanu is playing in that game. He's 40 years old. Still an unbelievable good player. So, rugby takes you places and you meet people that you respect. And I think that's a great thing, my time with the Springboks, obviously you want to win the World Cup. But the relationships and, guy like Steve Hansen, we're still good friends, and the respect you've got for each other and guys you meet. That makes rugby such a great game. And just to be part of it and to be healthy, it's unbelievable. And I enjoy America. I think they're a sleeping giant. I think they've got so much talent, so much potential. And, if you see what Japan has done, there's no reason America can't go. We need that in rugby. We need new nations coming in. And if I can play my part, it's just an honor to play my part.
Sounds good to me. Heyneke, let's finish off by looking at that trivia question again from earlier. Who did the Springboks play in their first test match of the year in 2000? I can't actually remember if you were part of the coaching staff that year or not, but let's see if you know the answer, Heyneke.
No, I think I finished in 99. I'm not good. I don't live in the past. But I'll take a wild guess. Could have been Canada, but I'm not usually right. I don't, like I said, I don't even remember scores 2 years back. But yeah, it could have been Canada if I take a wild guess.
That is an excellent wild guess. So we played against Canada. It was in East London, actually, and we won the test match. And then after that came a 2-match series against England. But Canada is the correct answer. Heyneke, congratulations. Well done. And let me say it was wonderful having you on Front Row Rugby again. An absolute pleasure to relive some of those special memories from the past. And I really hope that we can have you on again in the future.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. And again, I just want to thank all the support, even to this day, a lot of support from people back home and all over the world. It's nice to meet people from all over the world and speak about the Springboks. Proud of what the Springboks are doing for the country, and just want to thank all the people for the support, and appreciate speaking to you. And best of luck going forward.
Last time on Front Row Rugby, Louis Kuhn was my guest. You can go and watch that video. It's appearing on your screen right now. Next time, 2-time Rugby World Cup champion and Tri-Nations winner Os du Randt will be my guest.